Good afternoon, Ohio State fans and college football fans around the country. Welcome in to our second program here as we break down the Ohio State-Arkansas State game from today. I got my special guest with me today, Brandon Moses. B. Moses is with us. If you all can support Brandon, I'll show you where you can find him at. He's got his own talk show as well on Facebook and Instagram, and also his Twitter handle right there. So glad to have Brandon with us today. And if you guys could all go out and support Brandon, that would be great as well. So, B. Moses, let me ask you a couple questions here, my man. So before we get into the breakdown of the Arkansas State game here, I just want to get your thoughts on last week's game with Notre Dame, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you saw, just real quick on that.
Yeah, so real quick, I was actually in the stadium, so I had a stadium view, which is definitely unique from the television. And first of all, Notre Dame's defense was legit. They're well coached. They're senior laden. Marcus Freeman knows what he's doing. So does Al Golden. And they had a lot of time to prepare. So the defense they had ready for Ohio State was a good scheme. And I just think, with Jackson Smith and Jigba going out a little early, him having that veteran presence, being able to calm the whiteouts out and be the leader and make it a little easier for the rest of them. I think that kind of made things a little disjointed, in the beginning. But overall, we gutted out a physical win, which is obviously, the knock that was on us last year. I think it's overblown, but it was still a knock. And we were able to show that we can run the ball down their throat and make stops. The defense is the absolute number one that I come out with that game with it was so great to see stops on third downs and
Absolutely,
aggressive physical defense. So that's my brief thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And folks, we're just putting a bow on the Notre Dame game real quick here before we get into Arkansas State. I just wanted to get B. Moses' thoughts on that since he was in the stadium last week. So he saw it live and in color from the shoe. And just to reiterate kind of one of the things he said is how well Notre Dame's defense played. They were not going to give up any deep shots at all. Brandon, they played that cover two. They were going to make Ohio State dink and dunk all day. Yep. And that's the thing with Ryan Day. Sometimes he gets a little impatient, gets pass happy. And he finally realized, we got to start running the football here if they're going to be back that far with those safeties. Yeah. And as you stated already, stops on defense and the ability to run the football when they had to basically squeeze the life out of Notre Dame. That's what I really liked last week. And how can't you like what Jim Knowles has done defensively already? Last week and then coming into this week, how can you not like it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's literally night and day from what we saw last year. We saw a defensive coordinator who not only has a competent scheme, but understands adjustments on the fly, real time, and does not hesitate. And he dictates the tempo, or at least attempts to, as opposed to just kind of sitting back and hoping the offense doesn't do certain things. Don't get me started, but it was beautiful to see an actual defensive coordinator.
Oh, absolutely. An attacking defense. I mean, not just sitting back. They're making things happen, not letting things happen. So, yeah, absolutely. On that, good analysis, especially with you seeing it live. So, as we push forward to today, so Arkansas State comes into the shoe today for a noon kickoff. Obviously not nearly as electric as it was last Saturday night against Notre Dame. Yeah. And Ohio State comes in at 42 or 44.5 point favorites. Right. Second week in a row, they do not cover, but we don't care about that unless you got a couple. You got some pizza money on it. You know what I mean? So, right. But as far as us and as fans, if you're not putting any pizza money on it, the win's a win. So, what I wanted to see today, Brandon, and I don't know how you feel about it, is I wanted to see how Ohio State will come out after a real emotional win against Notre Dame. It's a noon kickoff. It's a bit of a snoozer. You're playing a Sun Belt team conference from a Sun Belt team from the conference from the Sun Belt, and will Ohio State get out of the gate and start quick? That's what I wanted to see today. And so, thoughts on that coming into the game? Did you have any worries about that, or same kind of thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had worries about, going from such an emotional high to getting ready for a noon game against Arkansas State. I mean, I don't care what school you are, that's a challenge from Alabama all the way down to whoever. It's a challenge. And so that was definitely my concern. Ryan Day has been preaching competitive stamina, for a while now, trying to get his guys to be consistent. And I think we saw a mixed bag today. So I won't go too far. I just wanted to initially respond to your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we'll cover it. I like to call it the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Some of the things we'll have to hash out and talk about. So Ohio State comes in today. They win the toss again, defer, and Arkansas State takes over their first possession. I wanted to see, can this defense stay aggressive right out of the gate? And we did exactly what I was hoping we'd do: get a 3 and out, and so we take over after a good pump by Arkansas State on their own 4-yard line. And so I wanted to see, what was Arkansas State going to do? How was Ohio State going to respond offensively? And right out of the gate, we go on a 41-yard run by Travion Henderson, and they score in 8 plays. And Marvin Harrison Jr. With his first of 3. I think he should have had 4, but we'll talk about that a little later on when it comes to the replay. But the quick strike offense that we wanted to see with Ohio State, and it's exactly what we want to see as far as getting out of the gate, the 3 and out. You get the ball on offense, and we go right down the field doing what we like to do. 3.5-minute drive, 8 plays.
Yeah, definitely. And that definitely made me happy seeing that right out the gate, especially that big run by Trey Henderson. That's what I really wanted to see. But again, it's just the challenge with this offense is I'm looking at the stats right now, and I would have liked to see the running backs have a little more productivity. But we have such an awesome passing attack. It's just such a tough dynamic, especially depending on what the defense is showing you and giving you. But to your point, yes, out the gate, we came out aggressive. We ran the ball. The O-line controlled things. And I was very happy to see that out the gate.
And that's the thing I always like to stress, too, is if you want to be talked about in the elites of the elites, when we're talking the Bamas, the Georgias, and teams like that, when you're playing a team like Arkansas State, who we know is overmatched. I mean, it really is. And you need to come out and show your strength right out of the gate and say, look, we're going to show you that we're men and this is how we do it here. And you make your statement right out of the gate. And that's what I was happy about as well. So go up 7-0, kick off to Arkansas State. And this is where we kind of get into the ugly thing. And I just want to get your thoughts. We had a PI on Denzel Burke. Denzel Burke, to me right now, just seems like he's struggling a little bit. There were a couple plays in the Notre Dame game. Now, granted, you got to give the quarterback from Notre Dame credit and the receiver credit. The kid made a great juggling catch in the Notre Dame game. And then it was another great pass. I always say a great pass beats great defense all the time. But today, some missed tackles, a couple PIs. He's just struggling out of the gate the first 2 games right now.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's disappointing to see because, listen, in the offseason, we have so much expectations for not only the team but individual players. I mean, Burke had a great freshman year. So to see him struggle a little bit is concerning, but we don't want to overreact either. But yes, it's stuff that's I think is very fixable and you can clean up, but it's just like head scratcher stuff today. Like, Burke, what are you doing? Like, you've done this. Like, where's your technique? You don't have to do that. So I don't know if he's just in his own head, if he's just too excited, wants to try to make a big play that he's not being sound. I don't know, but it's not the Burke that we saw last year for most of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, is he thinking too much? You know what I mean? Because I always had this because I coached high school and college basketball. When you start thinking instead of just reacting, when you engage your brain, that's when things can go wrong for you. And so I don't know if he's thinking a lot, like you said, but as a freshman last year, and again, he came out with so much expectation as one of the lockdown corners, the next great corner at Ohio State. That's what he was being talked about as.
Right.
So the first 2 games, though, he has had a little bit of just some bumpy roads for him. But it's something that is correctable, as you stated. So, you just got to wait and let it keep playing out here these next couple games and see. He'll get his feet underneath him and he'll get things going. So, yeah. But on that drive, there was the 2 PIs. Also, I didn't mention Ohio State held them. They finally had a punt return for a touchdown. And I don't think we've seen a punt return for a touchdown since Jalen Marshall back in the 2014 season against Indiana. And so we finally get a great play on special teams, and we get 2 penalties. We get one. There's a block in the back, and then obviously the real killer is the leaping that they're trying to get out of college football and all of football just as a player safety thing. So you can handle the block in the back on the punt. Okay, we take it back, but we're going to keep the ball. But the leaping is a pre-kick penalty, which then gives Arkansas State the football back, which they're able to take down and end up getting a field goal out of it.
Man, I'm telling you, just looking at my notes, the number one thing I highlighted was penalties. Oh, I mean, it's just an issue. It's been an issue for a while now, even back to Urban Meyer. But the penalties have to get cleaned up. I mean, I think was that Taraja Mitchell that leaped? I couldn't see the number.
It was Taraja Mitchell, yes.
These are things that they know. Like, this is not oh, man, I didn't know that rule. Like, they know this. So that was just a lapse in judgment in that moment. It wasn't even a critical. I can see if it was a critical moment of the game where you just had to risk it because we needed that. It just was so unnecessary. So the penalties have been unfortunately a fixture with this team, and it showed up again today. And that's luckily they only got 12 points. Our defense is much better now, but last year they would have had 27 points, 31 points. So absolutely. These penalties are like one of the number one things I'm frustrated with today's game and just the team in general.
Yeah, I believe it was 9 for 85 yards on penalties, and the one PI was not accepted because of the catch was made on the sideline. But you're exactly right. And as the season progresses and you get into bigger games, now you're talking about Wisconsin down the road here in a couple of weeks. You're on the road at Penn State, and then obviously the last game of the year, it has to be cleaned up. And I'm sure Ryan Day is very frustrated about it, and he knows. Last week it was DeJuan Jones, and I stated last week about the pre-snap penalties. You're a preseason All-American. You can't have 3 false start penalties in a game of that magnitude, okay? Because it just puts yourself behind the sticks, especially when your offense is struggling. Yeah. So you can't have those pre-snap penalties. And at least it was cleaned up a little bit today on the pre-snap stuff, but it was some of the other things like that. The PIs, the leaping, like you said, that's stuff that you should know about. You can't rough the center on a punt or on an extra point. You can't leap over the top of a pile now. It's just those things you should know. And who knows if he went rogue on that or what. But in a bigger game, that's what we can't have as far as penalties costing us big time like that.
Yeah, it seemed like today we traded in the pre-snap offensive false start penalties for offsides.
Right. Oh, yes.
That was the story today. You had Sawyer, Tyleek,
Zach Harrison.
Yes. I mean, it's just like it's just focus and discipline. And I believe these kids have it in them. But these coaches, and listen, I'm not saying we lost the championship today, but these are the things, like Bob said, that need to be checked now before they rear their ugly heads down the line when it's more critical. And so the coaches, I'm sure they're all over it. Ryan Day mentioned it in his post-game press interview. So they're on it. The question is, I guess, what can be done to get them to clean this up, because it starts here.
Absolutely. No doubt. It's between the head. It's exactly right, or between the ears. No doubt about it. So after the field goal, Ohio State now they get that offense revving, and they get the quick strike ability going. 4 plays, 75 yards, a minute and a half. There's a 45-yard play to Marvin Harrison, who's one of my players of the games, no doubt. And Henderson takes in from 8 yards out on a TD. Minute 30, 4 plays. Ohio State goes up 14-3.
Yeah. Just to touch on Marvin Harrison, I know there was some who were a little down on him last week against Notre Dame.
Yep.
And he had a little bit of the whole receiver corps had a little bit of a slow start with everything we already mentioned. But I think he came on pretty solid at the end, making some big catches to move the chains. But today he definitely stepped up in a big way. There was one thing if I was coaching him, I would definitely pound the table on. And that was well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Because I know you're kind of going through a flow, but he really showed up overall and stepped up to say, hey, I'm here. And, I'm a force to be reckoned with because he has the size and the hands. And I'm just waiting for him to continue just to assert himself and really be dominant on a consistent basis. But he really did well today.
You got to remember, B, it's only his 3rd start ever. He had a Rose Bowl start, Notre Dame start, and it's his 3rd start ever. So, I mean, granted, we all know the bloodline is there.
Yeah.
The genetics is there. So, he's going to be great. It's just a matter of getting reps and those game reps, okay? You can do what you want in practice. But when the time is on the clock and we're playing for real, that's when we want to see it. So he's getting those reps and he's going to be fine. So basically that takes it to the end of the first quarter. Ohio State up 14-3. Again, the defense does a tremendous job. They force a 3-and-out on Arkansas State. They get the ball back. They go on a nice 8-play drive. Stover with a nice catch. I don't know about you. C.J. Stroud, being that they don't have Njigba, Fleming is still out, which I got to tell you, it kills me inside that Julian Fleming has not been able to get on the field here yet because of injuries. One of the most snake bit players that I know right now. And have you heard anything on why or what the injury might be right now by chance with Julian Fleming?
No, they've been really, really hush about Fleming's injury. Well, they're pretty good with that in general, with being hush.
Yes.
But I think with him, because he's been so snake bit, if we played Michigan today, he probably would have played. It's more of a, let's be careful, preventative.
Sure.
We don't need to play you today. But to your point, the time is ticking. And, I'm sure he would want to be out in the field. But at this point, it's just like, man, let's not take any chances. But I haven't heard anything specific about his injury. So I'm guessing they may even hold him out against Toledo next week just to be careful. We'll see. Hopefully he plays, though, because he's going to need those reps against the Big Ten.
Yes.
So I'm hoping he's well enough to play against Toledo.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned this last week, too. I mean, really, you hold Nick Njigba out. There's no need for Nick Njigba to play today. And if Fleming is still aching, there's no need for him. Because if Ohio State struggles with Arkansas State, then there's greater issues with the team than we are aware of. And so you might as well erase any type of national championship play at that point if you're going to struggle with Arkansas State without them 2 guys. Stover makes a great catch. And then the Harrison TD. Why it's not reviewed, I have no idea. From the angle that they showed, it looked like a clean catch. It looked like he turned upfield. Looks like the ball breaks the plane of the line of the goal line, and it gets punched out. I mean, it was almost simultaneous, but I mean, from where they stopped it at and where Mike Pereira come in and even explained it, that I see what you guys see. The ball broke the plane before it was punched out. So regardless, we don't get a score there, but Ruggles comes in and boots a field goal to put them up 17-3.
Yeah, and you know what? A couple of things here. Number one, I feel like referees sometimes have a bias in the sense that, they have a bias in general because they're humans, but specifically in the sense that if this was a bigger game, if this was the Notre Dame game, I think it would have been scrutinized more. I think, and this is just me just thinking, I think in the back of their minds, they're like, it's a 44-point spread. They'll still score. No, you know what I mean. It's just like
Well, I get you. Yeah, that's not going to determine this game, basically.
Exactly. So whatever, we'll let it go. This Ohio State, they're going to score. I think that's kind of the subconscious thinking. But on the flip side about Marvin Harrison, and again, this is me in the if I'm Brian Hartline, I'm coaching him up as, hey, you see this? Secure the ball.
Yes.
So I think it was a touchdown after further review. Yes. But even with that said, I am coaching him up hard and say, listen, we may need this play in the future. Secure the ball. I would drill him to make sure that he's doing that. And I think that's a great coaching moment in a game that didn't matter, that we were going to win, to be able to get him more aware of the importance of that. But with that said, it was definitely a touchdown. Even what was the ref, the TV ref?
Mike Pereira.
He even said it was a touchdown. So, yeah, it was ridiculous, but it was Arkansas State, so it's like whatever.
And to your point, it is a great teaching point, because here he is, just real quick. I mean, his final stats were, 7 catches for 184 yards and 3 touchdowns. But as great of a game that he played, that's where you say, Coach Hartline, come in and say, and you give Arkansas State some credit too, because that punch play now, so many more players have adopted that on tackles, coming in almost punch first to try to get the ball, and it was a perfect shot on the ball that forced it out. And to your point again, bigger games down the road, that may mean something. So it is a great teaching point from there. So yeah, excellent. So after that, give Arkansas State a little bit credit. And again, we have a Burke sighting again here. Chance Fleming, the receiver for Arkansas State. The kid's got some wheels and made a great double move on the sideline that Burke bid on, and Blackman with a great pass down for a big play. But the thing I love about that, Ohio State has given up some big plays this year in 2 games, but in the past, the last 2 years, the Coombs defenses, it's a touchdown. We're giving up a touchdown. You know what I mean? The defense has bowed up and held these teams to field goals after these big plays.
Absolutely. And just a side note, I have like I said, I have my own Facebook page, Buckeye Sports Talk with B. Moses, and I post game threads. And it's like the game threads never disappoint with people freaking out and just being overreactive.
Yes.
One guy said, the D looks awful. And then I'm like, huh? I sent him a screenshot of the third downs. I think, matter of fact, let me pull it up.
That was 3 of 13 last week.
3 of 13. Okay, yeah. But this is for this game he was complaining about. For this game.
Yeah, they were, I have it here too, 5 of 20 on third down.
Yeah, I mean, and it was another ridiculous stat in favor of our defense, and I circled it. I'm trying to see if I can find it, but it's just the point is this. Our defense now with Knowles is going to be aggressive. We knew if anybody who just listened for 5 minutes to sort of the skinny on what he brings to the table, is that the aggressiveness is going to occasionally yield some big plays.
It's going to happen.
But more often than not, we win, we shut them down, and I think he said limited to at least 5 plays, big plays, explosive plays a game. So it's like how could you even fix your lips to say that after what we dealt with last year? This defense is beautiful, chef's kiss compared to last year.
Oh, okay? Absolutely. Like I referenced last week, and as Ohio State fans, that team up north that we deal with at the end of the year, last year in that game in the second half, we actually never got Michigan to a third down in the entire second half last year. Imagine that. Imagine that thought process when you wrap your head around that you never got a team in a third down situation in an entire half. And like you said, now it's incredible, the aggressiveness, the D-line, the way they're playing. Michael Hall, outstanding right now. Streetsboro kid, just paying off big time with his plays, what he's doing. The linebackers are playing great. Steel Chambers, Eichenberg, those guys. I mean, the mad scientist is what I like to call Jim Knowles because of what he does pre-snap. he covers up a lot of stuff. One thing that quarterback thinks he's reading on the snap, all of a sudden changes quickly on the snap. And you thought you saw cover 2, it's all of a sudden cover 3. And so that's what you love about him. But the aggressiveness and the ability to bow up after giving up big plays and get off the field on third down.
Yes.
That is where you become elite.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better than that. And that's what we needed. We were one of the worst teams on third down last year in the entire country.
Yes.
Like, this is Ohio State, y'all.
This is Ohio State. Exactly.
Ohio State, big boys, big,
5 stars everywhere.
Everywhere. We were one of the worst. So now I guarantee you we're probably one of the best already, in that stat. So, yes, the point is, to summarize, is that, yes, there were a few plays that were frustrating because we don't like to see other teams make big plays.
Sure.
But overall, this D is light years ahead of last year, and they absolutely do bow up. They would have dropped their head last year in pity, but this year they almost take it as a challenge, and I love it. So, yeah, kudos to the D.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Ohio State, after they give up the field goal, and that was a long drive too. Actually, that Arkansas State did well. It was a longer drive for the field because of the big play. But Ohio State punts. They give it back to Arkansas, and this is the one time where Arkansas State just made a few plays. They went 14 plays, took 7 minutes off the clock in that second quarter. Now, Again, like I try to say too, B, is this is college football in 2022, okay? You just can't shut everybody down. I don't care who you're playing, what conference you're from. You just can't shut everybody down. Everybody has some good players and some skill guys, and this will happen at times. So, okay, we give up 14 plays, give up another field goal, no big deal. It's 17-9. And so how does Ohio State respond? They get out a 1-minute drive, they hand the ball off to Mayan, the angry man, makes people pay, makes people miss. Pork chop with the lateral move, the jump cuts. It's unbelievable a guy his size has that type of lateral movement and can jump cut the way that he does and change the direction. And he's low to the ground. He's a bull in a china shop. He doesn't go down with arm tackles. He goes off for 25 yards. And literally 2 plays later, C.J. Stroud drops one in the pickle barrel from 42 yards out to Marvin Harrison again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. We're on the same page with Mayan Williams. A bull in the china shop is exactly what I thought about in my mind coming out of that game last week. And he's such a tough tackle. Like, those safeties and DBs, once he gets to the second level, in their minds, they want to make a business decision so bad. But they know.
No doubt. That's exactly right. That's the best way to put it. We always say it with Derrick Henry when he's running in the NFL. I mean, you're making a business decision when you're coming up to try to hit him, okay? It's the same thing with Mayan. He runs angry. I mean, that's what he does. He runs angry, and he's not going down on an arm tackle. So it's a great and I mentioned this last week too with who just got hurt, the third string back. Escapes my Evan Pryor. Evan Pryor got hurt. Broke my heart because I knew they were going to use him in a package. But it's the game of football. Injuries happen. But the 1-2 punch of Henderson and Williams, it's a thunder and lightning the way I look at it. Henderson has the speed. Mine just the strength and the power, what he can do. They really, really can play well off of each other. So I'm glad we got them. So basically, we get into the half at 24-9. Some of the stats in the first half, obviously very, very nice offensively, over 300 yards of offense in the first half. Stroud's 10 of 15 for 204. Henderson and Williams, 53 and 41 yards, respectively. And Harrison, obviously, the big first half with 137 and 2 touchdowns. Yeah,
I had mixed feelings at the half. Obviously, I think we all did. I mean, that 24-point, that wasn't – I mean, come on, let's just be honest. In our minds, we see Arkansas State. We have a certain expectation, So, I was a little frustrated, but I was also saying, okay, there's a few things we need to clean up. We're fine. There were some people spazzing out on the game thread and just saying ridiculous things, over the top declarative things. I'm like, just chill. Like, it's frustrating right now. Yes, but what's happened? Let's analyze what happened. And before we just, call it a season.
Overreaction, man.
Right.
It's always overreaction. I mean, what do you think's going on in Alabama right now? They just needed a last-second field goal to beat Texas, okay, who was unranked. And if Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt in that game, they probably beat Alabama, okay? They had a missed field goal earlier in the game that cost them at the end of the half. Texas, Alabama could have got upset there, but it's overreaction. That's why fan stands for fanatical. You know what I mean? So at least I know, just talking to you now, you look at it from the same perspective as I do. It's just those glaring fans. They just go off the reservation real fast and just look at things. I'm a positive guy. You're a positive guy. And that's kind of how we look at it. You're going to have some bumps. That's just the way it is. It's a football season. It's a game. Teams are going to make plays. It's how do you react after teams make big plays? And our defense has reacted fantastic after every big play. They've given up one touchdown on the year after 2 games.
Right. So I saw that in the comments. I was like, I knew that, but I didn't think that. Like that's a great point. But just real quick, and this is not a pushback on you, Bob, when you said we're positive. I think we're positive guys. But honestly, just for those out there to try to say, well, you guys are just trying to pump sunshine. It's not even just positive. It's logical.
Yes,
we're stepping back to just using logic and not allowing our emotions to rule us in the moment.
Well said.
I'm not a prisoner of the moment, or at least I try not to be, because I think like a coach a lot, and just, I try to step back and not allow my emotions to rule me, because you end up sounding like a fool sometimes, or just like, kind of goofy in the moment. And then you look back 3 weeks from now and you're like, man, I was tripping on that game thread, wasn't I?
Right. No, absolutely.
It's just good sound logic, y'all. It's just pump your brakes before you send that comment saying fire Ryan Day or bench whoever.
As Herm Edwards always says, he had the best line ever. Don't press send.
Right.
Don't press send. Read your comment first before you hit that send button. So we get into the half, 24-9. Good, bad, whatever. Like you said, some of the penalties, clean up some of that stuff up. So Ohio State's going to get the ball to start the second half, and I want to see exactly what we saw in that second half, especially the third quarter. Ohio State gets the opening kickoff, start at their own 25-yard line, and another quick strike, 3 plays, 1:20. Egbuka with 44 yards and on 1 play, and it was a simple bootleg. And then the Henderson TD run in 3 plays. Ohio State's in the end zone. It's 31-9.
Yeah, beautiful. The first thought I had, well, first of all, I saw the Ryan Day halftime interview, and he was, was it? I forget if he was interviewed at halftime or not. But the point is, he said something to them boys at halftime.
There's no doubt he got after him. No doubt.
He definitely got after him. Like, this ain't it, because Ryan Day is the perfect, cool, calm, collect person in front of the camera, but we've seen hidden, like, behind the scenes footage of him going absolutely off in the locker room. So he got after him, and they came out like he got after him, and they showed exactly what we know they're capable of, and they did it. But again, can they sustain it?
Yeah, right, exactly. And again, kudos to the offensive line. Did a great job, in that opening drive. And again, what are we looking for again? So Ohio State, 3 plays, touchdown. We kick off to Arkansas. Can we get them 3 and out? The defense, boom. Once again, it's a 3 and out. Kick it right back to Ohio State. And after a not so great punt, it was 2 plays and a touchdown now. C.J. Stroud looked like he was going to go out in the flat and then was able to come back to Egbuka, going right down the middle, dropped it right off over everybody, and Egbuka was able to take it to 51 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, and I wanted to speak on Egbuka as well. With JSN being out pretty much both these games, he's really asserted himself as a reliable, even number 1 guy when JSN is not in. So kudos to Ibuka, man. Like he looks really good. He was a little raw coming in, but he looks more polished now. He's running good routes. He's showing good hands. And I know Marvin Harrison had the more flashier game, but Ibuka had a really, really good game.
Oh, absolutely. And again, people remember, it's only his third start ever.
Right.
Third start ever. He's a true sophomore, third start ever. And again, it does games like this also builds confidence for them guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. The Xavier Johnsons, the Ballards, the Emeka Bukas, whoever it may be, it's a confidence builder too. So that's the way I look at it. Just keep building confidence, and guys just keep getting better. When them other guys come back, guess what? C.J. Stroud can trust all of them. Wherever you want to play JSN, wherever you want to put Julian Fleming, you got Ibuka and Harrison as well. I mean, as far as the defensive coordinator on the other side of the ball, when those four are out there on the field, how do you defend it? What do you do? So that's what I look at too as well. So it goes to 38-9. Ohio State then kicks back off to Arkansas State. Arkansas State, another decent drive. They get a 45-yard field goal. And again, Ohio State's defense, once again, they keep them out of the end zone. I'll give up 45-yard field goals all day. So, again, kudos to the defense once again, bowing up and just holding the team to a field goal.
Definitely. Again, I'm trying to have perspective, because you don't want to give up any points to Arkansas State, right? You want it to be 56-0, right?
Right.
That's what we want. And I get that. But you got to really look at the end. First of all, coming off what we came off last year defensively, and then seeing what this team does to respond to certain things, like, to me, is beautiful. Holding them they got no touchdowns, y'all.
Right.
No touchdowns. That is a beautiful thing. Now, some of the things that happened, sure, okay, they were frustrating in the moment, but none of the things I've seen on the field were not fixable. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so that's just kind of how I see it, man. I agree, Bob. Like, field goals, go ahead and kick the field goal.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. I'll give up field goals all day long. I mean, because I know we're going to be scoring 7 most likely, and when that defense just keeps holding teams to field goals, it's fantastic. So, again, after that, Ohio State goes 3-0. Not one of their best offensive series. They hold Arkansas State again, and then once again, Emeka Ibuka goes on a jet sweep after the field goal, goes 25 yards off a jet sweep. And then, which I think is one of the best balls of the day for sure, the 30-yard touchdown pass to Harrison down that left sideline. And it wasn't that it was bad defense. It was damn good defense right there. But the pass catch or the pass, that's one of those where I always said, our Jimmy's better than your Joe on that one. Okay? It's a Jimmy's and Joe situation because C.J. Stroud is a Jimmy, Marvin Harrison is a Jimmy, was better than Arkansas State's 2 Joes, the cornerback and the safety who was just late getting there. But then again, the pass is fantastic. Marvin Harrison got to make the catch, also hold on to it. By far, my favorite play of the game right there.
Man, listen, we can't, as fans, we got to enjoy this, all right? Like, C.J. Stroud is an absolute monster throwing the ball.
Absolutely.
And I thought I saw in the chat somebody say, calling for him to be benched last year.
Yep, you can pull it up if you want.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comments, but it's like I don't see the comment I originally saw as I'm scrolling through, but I saw it earlier. But the point is, there it is, boom. A voice in the choir. At this time last season, we lost to Oregon. Very sad day. Many fans wanted Stroud benched and Coach Day fired. This year is not doom and gloom. We are 2-0. So, yes, just early last season, CJ making his first start, as a Buckeye, was injured, shoulder banged up, threw for almost 500 yards against Oregon, which a loss should have been blamed on the defense. But, of course, some
100%.
fans blamed it on CJ Stroud. Making his second start in a marquee matchup. But the point I'm making is this young man, he is incredibly talented, and he makes NFL throws look routine. I mean, he keeps doing this. Has he been absolutely perfect? No. He sometimes does, he's a human being. He's going to make some mistakes, but overall, he is an absolute magician slinging that rock around. He dropped that right in the bucket. Not enough time for the safety to get over, and only where Marvin Harrison could get it. And he keeps doing this consistently, y'all. I'm just saying, enjoy your quarterback while you have him because he's going top 5 next year.
Oh, I can't agree more with you. I mean, well said. People, if you just joined us, special guest today, Brandon Moses, B. Moses. Please support him. He's got a great show, Buckeye Sports Talk with B. Moses on Facebook and Instagram. You can also hit him up on Twitter too. So check it out with him. He does a great job as well. I'm going to have him on a few more times this year. So I like having him on today, having a good talk going on. I just want to make sure that he is well represented here. And if you guys want to check him out, that's how you can see him. You're right. I mean, these types of quarterbacks are not a dime a dozen, obviously. And we are so lucky to have Stroud right now because this is it. This is his last year. And some of the things he does, some of the plays he makes. And last week, too, if you remember, Brandon, in that game, he may not have done nothing flashy, but the 2 throws that were unbelievable that he made was in that last drive to Mayan Williams when he had to scramble to his left, throw back across his body. Mayan Williams makes a great catch on the sideline, too. I mean, he put the ball the only place he could put it to make that catch, to keep that drive going. So, again, you said it, fantastic. Enjoy while we got him because as each game goes by, it's going to be one of his last games as they keep going by. So, yeah, you can't ask for anything more than that. So 45-12 at the end of the third. Obviously, Ohio State's on coast mode right now. They end up bringing in the second team. And someone that jumped out to me defensively, again, Caden Curry. Okay. Yes. They talked about him all camp. This was another kid that is a true freshman. They said he has potential to be a monster, and he came in and flashed right away.
Yeah, he sure did, man. And I was so happy to see that because you want to see the kids step up and prove what's been said about them in the offseason. And I believe Larry Johnson himself shouted Caden Curry out in one of his listen, I'm an interview nerd. I watch all the weekly news and all that stuff. So yes, I was very, very happy. It was 2 great back-to-back plays too. And that bodes well for depth this year, later in the season, and of course next season. So I was very excited to see that.
I'll tell you who else has stepped up a little bit, who has kind of underperformed, was Teron Vincent.
Yes.
He's finally starting to come into himself a little bit. Here's a guy that was a 5-star guy out of the South that Ohio State was able to snag from Georgia, out of Georgia. And, he's also suffered from some injuries during his career, shoulder injuries, things like that. And I think in this new defensive scheme and Jim Knowles, it has revigorated some of these other guys, okay? I'm still waiting for Harrison to show why he was a 5-star, okay? But and there's still time here, but that's one guy that also jumped out at me, Teron Vincent. I think he's starting to come on a little bit and earn that 5-star keep. So so that's the final score, basically. We go 45-12 there, B. Some of the stats, again, you think about this, we only threw the ball 24 times, and he threw for 351 yards and 4 touchdowns. So tremendous numbers by CJ. Henderson and Williams, 10 carries, 8 carries. I liked it last week. They were right there both at 15 and 14 carries. Mayan has got to get carries. You know what I mean? We just can't totally lean on Henderson, I believe. I think they just complement each other like we spoke about earlier. So Henderson goes for 87. Mayan only goes for 46, but still, it's his mentality when he's on the field and what he does when he runs the football because he punishes people.
Yeah.
Harrison goes 7 for 184, 3 touchdowns. And Egbuka gets his first 100-yard receiving day. He goes on 4 catches for 118 yards, 538 yards of total offense. And again, you're playing Arkansas State. this is the way it should be. Okay. Now, people may not like that we only scored 45, but as far as I'm concerned, the season is a growth process. Each game, it's a growth. You're going to get better. You want to keep seeing progress, obviously in a positive sense. And the only thing that we talked about, though, is when we talk about the good, I like the good, the defense again. If you want to share some of your good that you saw today, I've kind of shared already in stats. We've already kind of touched on it, but any good that you may have liked as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I kind of touched on it, but I'll reiterate and I'll kind of give sort of a summary of how I feel about the game in general. But I would say the good, obviously the defense you touched on, Bob, beautiful. But the fact that we are seeing this offense, remember, y'all, just think, it's been 2 games so far, right? We have seen this offense largely without the number 1 receiver in the country on the field most of the time. Think about that. Correct. So you have to account for that. Jackson Smith-Njigba has not really played. The first game, he played a few snaps.
7 minutes. 7 minutes.
Exactly. But even within that total of 7 minutes, he wasn't full go. He tried to go.
Right.
The point is we're seeing our young receivers step up and be thrust into service, in a position they weren't necessarily expecting with the number 1 receiver out. So keep that in the back of your mind as you judge our offense going forward, right? So think about that. So I think that's the good, looking at their numbers today and how they performed, how they stepped up. I think that bodes well for, going down the line in the season when we're really going to need them in some tough moments.
Yeah, and then we touched on this too. Defensively, 5 for 20 on 3rd down and a 4th down stop as well. Hall gets the big sack on a 4th and short. So you got a 5 and 20 for 3rd downs, and you get a stop on 4th down. That again, by far, we can't be more happy than what we've seen defensively with Ohio State right now. And you just want to keep getting better. The confidence is there, and that's what you love to see. So we've kind of already touched a little bit on the ugly, and that's the penalties, which has to be cleaned up. And again, it's not that Ryan Day's not disciplined. We know he's disciplined. And as you stated, he may be a choir guy in front of the camera, but once he gets in that locker room, he's getting up people. He's getting after them. He's not going easy on people. He's going to let them know his true feelings and say, look, you're better than this. I mean, 9 for 85 yards, what we're doing here. We're better than this. You can't be having pre-snap penalties, offside penalties, especially when you get a sack and you put him behind the sticks, you give him a free 5 yards. You know what I mean? I think there was 3 offside penalties. There might have been 4, but I know 3 for sure.
At least 3.
Sawyer, Harrison, and I think somebody else on the D-line might have been Tyleik Williams maybe. So obviously that has to be cleaned up. But and then the one bad thing I always like to just throw one out there as an official. Why it wasn't reviewed on that touchdown? You mentioned it. They may have just said, we'll move on. It's not going to change this game. We ain't got to worry about nothing here, so let's just move on. So,
right.
So real quick, I'm going to go back up here and just look at some people's responses here. I'll throw them up on the board. Let's, again, Jeremy here. I'm quite sure Marvin Harrison Sr. is quite proud today. We need Jackson for the game for sure. Fleming would also be nice against Wisconsin. And Jeremiah, yeah, I agree. And that's something that B has already mentioned, that we're playing right now without probably the best wide receiver in the country in JSN. And so it does nothing but bode well down the road when Marvin Harrison and then Emeka Egbuka are now the primary guys. They're just building more experience. So anything you want to add at all to that, B, you can go right ahead.
No, I mean, that's it. I pretty much nailed it. I mean, it's one of those things where this is not what you wish for, but it's still a blessing in disguise nonetheless. So if you're going to be thrust into a difficult situation, make the most out of it. And I think we're doing that with Marvin Harrison and Egbuka.
Here, I got one for you here, B. I'm going to throw this up and let you read it and see how you respond to that.
I think our O will be fine when JSN and Fleming get back. The long drives given up by the D was concerning a bit today. Seen some old habits show up today. A good O might have taken advantage of that. So, I mean, I'm not really mad at that comment. I understand the thinking. I understand the concern. Listen, we all have a little bit of PTSD from last year's defense. Let's be honest,
Yeah, good point.
right? I mean,
Yes.
so, I'm not going to just hammer you for that, like, how dare you, but at the same time, I think the way I balance things out in my brain when I have something that concerns me, I look at the other evidence, the other facts to be able to kind of balance that out. Well, okay, look what we did on third down. We were awful last year. Look how we bowed up and stopped them from scoring touchdowns instead of and gave them field goals. We would have gave up a touchdown last year. So we have a lot to work with, even with that concern of those few long drives. And like I said, and like we both said, they're going to watch film. They're going to see. They're going to identify. This is still a new scheme, okay? A new scheme that they're still getting acclimated to. So I think even with what we've seen today, we still have many more on the plus side to kind of balance out or at least compensate for the negative things we saw today. I'll just put it that way. So
yeah, and also I think they mentioned on the broadcast today, Noles' defense is only about in the mid 70% range
right.
where he's at right now with what he wants to do with things. So I think one of the best things is McAllister coming over from Oklahoma State, the defensive back, the safety. He's probably been a coach on the field for them guys because he knows it. And so they're all not just learning from the coach, but they also got an on-field coach with McAllister who's able to help them guys on that back end with what Coach Knowles is trying to do. So. And again, I'll give up all the field goals they want. It's the touchdowns that when teams start getting tons of touchdowns, that's when you got to start worrying. But again, the PTSD is a great point by you from what we've had over the last 2 years anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. All right, I like this little comment here. Henderson is the jab, Williams is the uppercut. Yes, no doubt, no doubt. That's a great way of putting it as well, using a boxing analogy. I always love the thunder and the lightning. Henderson is the lightning with the quicks and the straight line speed. Williams is just an outstanding running back. And remember, he was committed to Iowa State. The only reason why Ohio State was able to get him was because Bijan Robinson ended up decommitting at the last minute, and Tony Alford was able to go in and snatch him away from Iowa State. And Jeremy Yoder says something pretty cool here. Earl Campbell reborn. And I kind of agree with that statement a little bit. We know Earl Campbell was a violent runner, and Miyan Williams is no different. And, again, arm tackles is not bringing the man down. He's going to get after you, and he is going to punish you. Let's see what else we got here. Yep, great day to be a Buckeye. Beat Notre Dame, the Red Wolves. Buckeyes' best games of the season are ahead of them. Watch them explode as the season goes on. Go ahead, B. You can comment on that if you like.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. I mean, another reason why I try to step back with my analysis and not be a prisoner of the moment is because, I've been watching Buckeye football all my life. Long time. I've seen a lot of football. And so you go back to the 2014 season, for example, and that team grew over the season. Did they not?
Absolutely.
That the defense didn't look ferocious in week 2 and week 1 like they did, in the playoffs. They
had to fight for their lives at Penn State in double overtime that year.
I mean, exactly. I mean, just people those are the type of things that keep me grounded, is that we've seen too much of this happen, right? There's no reason to overreact at this point. Let it play out. You still got some young kids who are getting their footing, who are going to get more confident, and this team needs to continue to gel. The great news is we're 2-0 and we have a ton of talent, and and the schedule is setting up well for us to really get our footing and make a nice little stretch run towards the end of the season with how things set up, with the home games that we have especially.
Yeah, it's the first year because obviously you're like me. I've been an Ohio State fan since I was about 10 years old. And I don't ever remember Ohio State having 8 home games like they do this year. So especially with the first 5 all at the shoe to start the season. So you got to take advantage when you get that situation right now when you got 8 home games. So it certainly sets up for Ohio State this year to make that run that we're all hoping that they make. So, you just got to take advantage of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we'll move on here. We'll about finish the show up. We'll about wrap it up. So just to look forward to next week, Toledo comes to town. They're 1-0. They have a game tonight. They have a 7:00 game tonight. Ohio State also at 7:00 next week against Toledo. I think it's been, about 100 years since a team from Ohio has beat Ohio State. I think it was Otterbein back in the 1800s or early 1900s, I think. I wouldn't see anything different. It's a MAC school coming in, and I would expect to see a lot of the same that we just saw today go out and just keep progressing and keep growing. Just that defense, just keep growing, keep making plays, keep going up after a big play is given up. They don't hang their heads. I haven't seen one guy hang their head yet, as you kind of mentioned a little bit already. So that's what I look forward to next week. Establish and get out of the gate quick once again.
Definitely. And what I also want to see, well, first of all, with Toledo being a night game, which seems strange because we usually don't have night games for MAC teams, even though last year Akron was for the first time. But I think there's going to be a little more juice in the building because it's a night game and our young players. So that's one. But one thing I want to see with the defense is I want to start seeing some turnovers now.
Yes.
Right? So along with this aggressiveness, I want to see some, sack, scoop, and score, or a pick six
right.
So that's kind of the next step I want to see with the defense.
Great point.
And then, of course, I'll be looking to see, for the penalties. Can we play a clean game? It's just if we should be able to play a clean game at home against Toledo, especially after watching this film. So that's what I want to see, because again, I want to see these young kids get in the second half and get some more reps. Kyle McCord, he needs more reps.
No doubt. No doubt. I thought he could have got a little bit more reps today, but it wasn't until late. But it was what it was. And like you said, with these early games at home, he does need some game reps, to get back in there. I think we're okay there. I would be okay if McCord actually played for us. He doesn't scare me that much, but obviously with CJ, you're talking about a possible Heisman guy and going to Kyle McCord. So Kyle McCord can get the job done, but CJ Stroud is special as well. Right. So here's one last comment here. Our boy Troy came back. I've been a fan since the Spillman era was a sophomore, and that's kind of when I started watching Ohio State football too. I was a Keith Byers guy. So Keith Byers was when I remembered Ohio State football and became a fan. So Spillman was another one. But, you're excited for the future and see a lot of potential on the great defense by the end of the year. They already much better than last year. 100%. I mean, B has mentioned it on I don't know how many occasions now, how ecstatic both of us are with how the defense has played to this point. It's a 2-game sample. We get it. It's only 2 games. But guess what? Next week is the 3rd game. We get to see more. And I don't know about you, Brandon, but like last year, I would always get excited for a Saturday, but every time that defense ran out onto the field, I got heartburn because you didn't, you just got heartburn. You're thinking, can we make a play? Can we get a stop? Can we get a turnover? But it was also a great point is the next progression of this defense by bowing up, getting stops is let's start seeing the turnovers. I don't think we forced a turnover yet this year. Nope. So that's a great point that I'm going to look at next week as well. Can we force some turnovers? As well as the games move on. So, B, I appreciate it, my man. If you got anything else you would like to add, I'm going to throw up your banner here one more time. Again, Brandon's going to be with us a few more times this year. I appreciate him coming on today. Brandon's got his talk show right there. As you can see it, Buckeye Sports Talk with B. Moses on Facebook and Instagram. You can hit him up on Twitter. And I appreciate everybody tuning in today. And again, this is in coordinates with the voice of college football, Mark Rogers. Join the Discord at the Talk College Football all the time. Sign up at patreon.com. Search Mark Rogers TV. Obviously, donations are always welcome to support Brandon and his cause as well. And we'll see how things go next week, B. And, we'll stay in touch and keep going. And I'll see you down the road, my man, okay?
Yes, sir. Appreciate everybody joining in today in the chat.
Yes, sir. Peace out, brother. All right, man. Take care.